So, welcome everyone who is joining. We still have many people joining, but I'll start because we have a lot to cover for today. My name is Laura. I'm speaking from Brazil, and I'm really happy to open this final webinar of 2025. What a year has been. Uh, Today, we'll take a look in all the amazing achievements of this community, but also have some time to finally celebrate. I think we've been waiting the full year to get to this place, and now we are able to properly celebrate all the lessons, all the successes, all the relationships. So it's really nice to see so many colleagues that we've met either in person or in virtual meetings throughout the years. I see more people entering than ever because I think there is huge excitement um, for this final piece of reflection before the next year starts. But I'll quickly share my slides here and invite our colleague John Lavis to kick us off. But welcome, who's getting here now. We are really happy to welcome you to the December webinar of the Evidence Synthesis Infrastructure Collaborative. John, please.
Great. So unfortunately, we're missing some absolutely key people. Carlos Suarez Weiser, as many of you know, the new CEO of Cochrane, is off on a very well-deserved break to be geared up for the explosive year of 2026 for Cochrane. Other people like Zoe Jordan, also critically involved in all of this work, not able to be here today. But we did have a lot of conversation before today to talk about what we wanted to cover. And Carla, Zoe, and others asked if I could summarize succinctly what I think we've achieved in 2025. Then I'll pass it back to Laura, Lawrence, and others to move on to agenda item 2. And then I'm going to come back in and be very concrete about things to be alert to that will be happening in 2026 that we hope will create a lot of opportunities for many of you. So the next slide, you'll recognize this as a Zoe slide. She wanted to start with gratitude, and I think we would all say that we're incredibly grateful to all of you. Between January to June, all of you, or many of you on the line, did an extraordinary amount of work to an incredibly high standard and did it really rapidly in a way that enabled the funder interest group executive then to move on and decide how to, in the short run, begin to allocate resources to deliver on the extraordinary vision that was agreed to in Cape Town. So thank you to all of you. If we move on to the next slide, Carla, Zoe, many people thought it would be helpful to summarize what we achieved first from a process perspective. So a really robust, really fast-paced planning process that engaged many hundreds of people. Many of you are on the line today. Thank you again. Many outputs along the way, 5 working groups, 1 planning group, each producing 5 reports for 30 in total landmark reports, as well as many other publications. Thanks to our African colleagues, an incredibly well-organized, high-energy consensus meeting in Cape Town, and then the finalization of the roadmap, thanks to the leadership of Carrie, Andrea, and Will, among many other contributors. Many webinars. I think when I look back, I was probably involved in about 150 alone. I know many of you were involved in many others. We have a website that, at least with its 1 page, tries to keep people aware of developments, although that will be built out very early in 2026 with a lot more detail. And finally, thanks to Laura's leadership, a lot of support for early career people through mentorship and educational opportunities. So lots of achievements from a process perspective. If we move to the next slide, when I think about the outcomes, I ended up zeroing in on 4, and this is my personal take. We'd warmly welcome your thoughts about what are some of the other outcomes that you think we achieved. I think the one that I'm the most proud of is the first one. I feel like we have now a community of communities committed to a collective impact approach to learning from others, using evidence synthesis to improve lives. And those communities range from the Global SDG Synthesis Coalition, 45 UN entities. We have Carrie, Shiv, and others here from that world. the largest producers of evidence synthesis from around the globe, Cochrane, JBI Campbell, but many, many others. Key networks of evidence intermediaries, the science advisors, the evidence support units, and 35 and a growing number of funders of the four types that you'll see there in brackets, really excited about this vision and now trying to work out how they can contribute to and benefit from this. So outcome one, community of communities. Outcome two, I think we have successfully made the case that we need to get the balance right between rigor and speed, although we need all of you to keep emphasizing this point. Evidence synthesis has for a long time given us rigor in learning from scientific studies and UN and other evaluations. AI has come along in these last few years, offering the promise of speed. We think there's a really strong case that AI-enabled living evidence syntheses are the best way to deliver localized, actionable insights with both rigor and speed. The third outcome that I think is really important to celebrate is our collective commitment to shifting power to the global south and locating equity at the heart of each step in ESIC's development. I think this came together throughout the planning process. It really kind of was so well articulated in Cape Town as a governing principle, and the fact that it has stood the test of time through the remainder of this year and remains front and center in everybody's thinking now, I think is an extraordinary achievement. And the last outcome that I'll highlight is mobilizing 126 million. We're very optimistic that number is going to rise substantially in 2026. And the funder interest group had the very difficult challenge of looking at the roadmap with all of those inspiring solutions and say, where do we put the money in year one that will give us the most essential pieces that will start to achieve impacts on the ground? And how do we start to put in place transitional arrangements as we move from the planning process into ESIC being operationalized in the field? So if we go on to the next slide, these are the five foundational investments. So the funder interest group executive, again, had to look at that long list of solutions and say, where do we drill down for year one? And these are the five domains that they selected. When you read some of the details in how this is being operationalized, almost all of the points here are moving towards. So when I come to near the end of the webinar, what will happen in 2026, things are really going to start to become concrete and there will be usable pieces of the infrastructure. The two year one investments that are becoming the most tangible currently are the sectoral hubs. So in a way, we have one for climate solutions already with Destiny. We have four more coming online through the UKRI-funded METIUS. You'll see the four domains that are listed there. We have conversations fairly advanced with some of the spokes in the Health Hub, including the one focused on health emergencies. And more, we're hearing people say, how do I foreshadow ESIC in calls when I'm writing proposals to make clear the need to leverage and contribute to this infrastructure and help us to move us to full coverage? The second year one investment that has got the most focus over this last while has been the open data system. So many on the line will have been part of three open data system touch points that have happened over the last 2 months. A lot of really exciting work happening to prepare us to have synthesis ready data, AI ready data that many of us then can quickly reanalyze, that can feed into processes like Best Buys. And that conversation has happened across sectors with the support of a number of funders, but also with the leadership of the ACUBS Foundation. They have been supporting a minimum viable product specific to the education sector. And as this open data system starts to become concrete, people are saying to us, great, this needs to feed into next generation research and evaluation. So we have better research going into syntheses in future. We want to build it into workflows. The multilateral development banks keen to build it into their diagnostic and project analysis workflows. The research funders keen to build it into their peer review processes and their research impact assessment work. The other year one investments, you're going to hear about this again when we come to coming in 2026. These will start to reach fruition then. the regional hubs moving us towards support for contextualization down to that national and local level where all the real decisions and the impacts on people's lives are felt. The living inventory, this will help us to make an informed choice about which AI tool we use for a particular task. It will also up our game in how we report transparently about why we use the tools that we use. And are also moving towards procurement of a monitoring, evaluation, and learning infrastructure that will help us with accountability, but also with learning and improvement cycles. So as of now, not that much that is immediately usable, but really important steps. And again, if you think about in June, we had a long list of solutions. Now we have these very concrete year one investments. They're moving us towards a world where we'll have the best evidence at our fingertips very quickly. And again, I'll come back to how we'll operationalize that early in 2026. On the next slide, and this is my last one before I turn it back to Laura and others, this is just about some preparatory work to gear up for year two foundational investment. So there was a really inspiring conversation that happened in Lisbon in October. The question to the Cochrane methods groups, which are often combined Cochrane-Campbell methods groups, was could you unite around a shared agenda of methods transformation? A whole-scale transformation that gets us to a world of policy scale, AI-enabled living evidence syntheses on all the big questions of our time. And I was thrilled to hear a resounding yes. So whether you're working in co-production or risk of bias assessment or grade or other aspects of the methods in synthesis, how do we work towards that shared agenda of methods transformation? And then finally, the other pieces that have clicked into place in 2025, three of the transitional arrangements, funder interest group, the 5 early mover funders making these decisions for now as a group about how to move from the roadmap to the foundational investments, a steering group, which met for the first time yesterday, 6 leaders from every region around the world, bringing many forms of evidence and other diversity perspectives or diverse perspectives to the table who will help us govern for collective impact. And 25 leaders from around the globe will have received an invitation in the last 10 days to be the first people joining the Communities Council that will help us strategically coordinate for collective impact. So we'll just end by saying we're co-building a more fit-for-purpose evidence synthesis infrastructure. It's hugely exciting. It's also very scary, and we've made a lot of progress just in these 6 months since Cape Town. And we're trying really hard to work within a collective impact approach. And I think most of us would now say this is really hard work. It's a day-to-day commitment, and it requires really tough conversations as we move from the equilibrium that many of us have been in for a very long time to a new and exciting equilibrium. But those types of changes can be very hard and a bit anxiety provoking, but we think it's going to be really worth it in the long run. So a lot accomplished in 2025. I'll come back at the end of the webinar with all of the exciting things to be alert to in 2026 that will really start to deliver the changes on the ground that we all hope for. Back to you, Laura.
Thank you, John. So for everyone who was from January on in this mission together, there is a question that we want to pose today that what are we excited about? And we believe that this is not only the exercise of looking of past and present achievements that John really nicely summarized, but also looking to the future and sharing a little bit. I'll ask Chris, who is helping us today, to talk a little bit about this beautiful mural that he created for us to reflect upon these successes. And then my colleague Lawrence will share a little bit of the messages we already received and how do we want to celebrate for today. So I'll stop sharing, and Chris, if you can just navigate with people through the mural, we'll just add the link in the chat box.
Sure. Thank you very much. And thank you for inviting me back to be part of your group. It's always fun. So the purpose behind the mural, which is really just a virtual wall for us all to share um, our input on, was to celebrate and to say what we're looking forward to. And so what we've done is try to put together, I'll just share my screen here with you. Um, Put together a space where you can be firstly reflecting on what's gone before. So it's a space where there are videos and stills and quotations and some of the wonderful artwork that you had in Cape Town to reflect on before. And I suggest you take 5 minutes just to orientate yourself and think. And then there's an opportunity to share your thoughts. What is it that you are excited about, both from the past, what's happening now, and also for the future? And capture one or two thoughts on the sticky notes. And when you've done that, make sure you read what other people have written as well. And if you want to, you can then also go ahead and react to what others have written by adding a heart or a thumbs up or anything else. Just click on the whiteboard and then you'll find that you can add reactions to the notes. So I hope that makes sense. You don't need to log in, you don't need to register yourself, you don't need to name yourself even. You just go in as a visitor and it'll give you a random animal, I think, as many of you are already on. So hopefully that's enough background. We'll periodically provide some confetti so that you know when it's about time to stop.
Yeah, thanks so much, Chris. So we'll give you about 5 minutes to gather your thoughts, and we'll come in between to showcase a few of the pre-recorded messages. So as John had indicated, we know that a few of our colleagues are on some very well-deserved holidays, but they were kind enough to pre-record some messages. And yeah, while you think about your contribution, and this looks really colorful and celebratory, so thank you very much for all of your inputs. We'll showcase a few. And my last thing is you see a few virtual non-alcoholic and alcoholic beverages there on the bottom left. So do grab a virtual drink and enjoy reflecting on the year and thinking about what we're doing next in 2026.
You right? Do you want help with that? Hold on.
For our colleagues who are just joining, we have in the chat box the link for this mural, and we are taking some minutes just to reflect on what are we excited about, either from lessons past and present or future activities. So we'll keep pasting the mural link in the chat box for the people who are entering, so you can add your reflections.
And while this lovely mural is filling up lovely, I see we're there on evidence activism on that sticky note, which is actually a pre-recorded message from Shanil from South Africa. So Chris, if you can navigate us to the left-hand side of the mural, all the way to the left until you see a rainbow flag. Yeah, there we've got him. So that's a message from Shanil. If you have a moment later on, you can double click on this picture to listen to his video. He reminds us to think about Cape Town when we were at the consensus meeting and how we celebrated the anniversary of South Africa's Freedom Charter with a plea to continue connecting evidence and activism. So he's excited about 2026, how we build on the legacy that we've started in ESIC to connect evidence, to mobilize for social and political activism. That's Shanil's message to us for today.
I love there is this great feeling of collaboration, shaping solutions together. Uh, I also completely agree with whomever created a big post-it about equity in evidence because this resonates so much. Global South leadership. Beautiful messages for us to reflect on what we are excited about.
And I
Lars,
think,
any other, highlights?
yeah, I was going to say, I think Global South leadership, that came from Femei Bochale, so another pre-recorded video. So Chris, if we go a little bit more to the left, just a little bit more, yeah, so a little bit down, 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 up. So that was too much. If we're going a little bit further down, yeah, tad more, tad more. Yeah, here you can see, yeah, there we've got Femei. So that's Femei from Ethiopia, who reflected on how ESIC has built Global South leadership and how that's something we should be taking forward into 2026. She describes 2025 as a year one of its kind for the evidence-informed policymaking field, and how we've managed to build a platform to bring us together in a new collective, and using that collective together with Global South leadership in 2026 to deliver on the solutions in the ESIC roadmap. So it's a lovely 3.5 minute video reflection. So I encourage you afterwards to have a listen. But yeah, Fime's excitement and pleas for continued Global South leadership in 2026.
I also see messages about the excitement around AI-enabled evidence synthesis and the efficiency that it can bring to our pipeline, which is something I think many of our colleagues in the evidence production world are really, really excited. And we do have two messages from Carla Soares and Zoe Jordan, who were not able to join. They are just up the mural, Chris, if you can. So we have here the message of Zoe, if you can give us a little zoom. She's talking about the true collaboration that we already mentioned and how can we harmonize efforts and coordinating with purpose, which is an ongoing effort from the ESIC community. And just to the left, we have Carla's message. A little bit more. Yes, there it goes. This beautiful Carla picture, now that she's the proper CEO, is so lovely. And she's talking about the inspiration that she has uh, for shared leadership and Global South and Global North collaboration driving real impact, which is a lovely mission. So I think we had enough time, Lawrence. Can you guide us through the collaborations that colleagues added, and maybe we'll open some time for colleagues to speak up as well. We want to hear more voices.
Yeah, 100%. I think there's many, many more that we could speak to. There's a video from Bhumika from Campus House Asia, where she very much, actually, John, how your slides were set up reflects on how lovely it is, not just what ESIC has managed to deliver, but also the how of it, the process behind it, how that has built a community. So Bhumika's video is something I'd encourage you to look at afterwards too. But I do think our mural is filling up, and so it would be lovely to hear from you. We might just look at a few sticky notes, but I know particular colleagues who are ready to go and on the line. So Patrick Ocran from eBase. I think I saw your sticky note earlier on, but now I've lost a little bit of track. So Patrick, do you want to come in and give your reflection on the year that's been and the future of ESIC?
Hi, everyone, and happy to have the opportunity to talk at this session. And of course, I've really been as excited about the whole process and looking forward. What excites me about ESIC is that it's not just about better synthesis methods, but about who the system really serves. From a Global South perspective, ESIC creates a space to center demand side needs, including policymakers, practitioners, and people, and to design evidence infrastructure that is both usable, equitable, and context aware. I'm particularly excited about how ESIC can support living and transferable evidence and open the door to approaches like storytelling and community knowledge alongside traditional synthesis approaches. That's where real uptake is going to happen. Thanks, and over to you.
Thanks so much, Patrick. And I know we have at least one more voice from our region. And Laura, I'm not sure if afterwards maybe we can come to some of you. But Andile, I believe you're on the line as the coordinator of the African Youth League. So I wonder if you can give us, from a youth perspective, what's your reflection on ESIC and what you're excited about?
Thank you, Lawrence. Hello, everyone. Very excited to see all of you again after we last saw each other in Cape Town. So I think for me, I'm excited about four things. The first one is the community of communities that sort of John touched on. I think ESIC really created very beautiful communities, and I'd like to see how those continue to grow and how we begin to learn from each other, continue to learn from each other, that is. And then the second one is around how we will continue to center the voices of early career individuals. I think ESIC was very intentional about that, and a big shout out to Laura for doing that. But I want to see how we continue to center the voices of early career individuals. And then the third one is just around leadership from the Global South, how we will continue to see that leadership as we progress with the 5 domains or sort of buckets that we're working on. And then the last one is how we take forward the roadmap in the work that we do at local level, as a national level. How do we actually begin to take the roadmap forward? So that is what I am as excited about. I think that's what you said, Patrick.
Patrick was perfect in pronunciating excited about. I wanted to hear also from the Latin American Caribbean region, and afterwards I'm coming for the citizens. So Maureen, if you can share, it would be lovely. But I'll ask initially my colleague Daniel Patino Lugo to share a little bit of his excitement about.
Thank you, Laura. So, and hello everyone, I'm Daniel from Colombia. So this was one of a kind collaborative effort. ESIC really brought together the evidence community around the globe to think collectively about how can we improve what we all are excited about. How can we improve the impact of evidence to improve lives? It really, for me, it was impressive how it was very, very interested in hearing Global South voices and bringing together Global South organizations that have been working on this space for a long time. It also recognized that funding needs to go where the needs are, and I think that's a huge effort, and also it's a big change in how funding is used. And I'm very excited, Laura, to see how this effort will change the use of evidence in our context, specifically in my context in Colombia. I really want to see if we can come up with an idea of institutionalizing the use of research evidence in Colombia. I want to see how this effort brings together other actors from the region, other organizations from Latin America together. We have really enjoyed working together with all of our colleagues. And I'm very excited to have funding to keep working with my colleagues, with Laura, with Lucy, with my colleagues from Latin America, and with my colleagues from around the globe. So I'm really excited for the next years to come to be working with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. So nice indeed to keep working together. Andele mentioned the early careers, and we have here our colleague Ana Beatriz, we have Clarice, we have Nain, we had Euphrassia joining beforehand. So it's really nice to see also this community of young leaders already there and kickstarting so many beautiful actions. I'm not completely sure if my colleague Donald Simeon from the Caribbean region is able to share his thoughts, but I would really like to hear from him if he can. I'm not sure if he's joining now that he's able to open the microphone. But Maureen, can you share a little bit from the citizen's perspective?
Hi, everyone. I'm just sitting here reflecting that a year ago, most of the people on this call, over 100, 124, I didn't know, or I hadn't, or I maybe had just met them once or twice on a Zoom call. And now it's like I'm meeting up with people who I have developed working relationships with. I think that's very exciting as a citizen. We weren't very many citizens, and we came from very different areas. We don't have a group that unifies us like many of the rest of you have, but we worked really hard. And I think what was important for me is that I went in with a spirit of learning, and the people who I encountered either on the committees or in person at the meetings had that same spirit, and that we learned from each other a lot. Sometimes I thought my brain was going to explode. So I'm just grateful that we're actually embedded now in ESIC. I wasn't sure of that at the very beginning, and I thought, oh my goodness, we're really new in this process. We're the new kids on the block, and now I feel that we are embedded and that we're going to move forward. The opportunities for co-production and for the efficient use and the best use of evidence that appeals and that works for citizens is of utmost importance. And I'm going to use the misinformation world, but we're in this world now where we're being threatened and where people are making decisions that are affecting their lives in very negative ways. So it's very timely, but it's also very important. And I think my biggest message is that I appreciate all the people who I've met and all the support that we've received, and my fellow citizens who attended the webinars, who came to Cape Town, and who just came together to say, let's get this done. And really looking forward to the future. So thanks to everyone for that. And looking forward to 2026.
Thank you, Maureen. This message is lovely. And I think just when we were sharing the screen, Eva Madrid, our colleague also from Latin America, was really excited to see people again and feel part of a community. So the sense is very much shared. And I wanted also to invite our colleague from Vietnam, Toan Dang, to share a little of his experience, if he's able to share now.
Thank you very much, Laura, and good evening to you, everyone. It's a pleasure to see you, many of you whom I met in Cape Town again. Oh, well, actually, I would like to share two thoughts. First is it is very much impressed to see how much we have achieved in 2025. And when it comes to 2026, many of you, I think, have to know that we we have been hit very badly by climate change impacts this year in particular. And and when a problem happens to our communities, I thought about ESIC. What can ESIC, what role can ESIC play in in helping the local communities become more prepared and resilient in in fighting back the impact of climate change. And we've been very badly hit this year. And I understand that we have a lot of knowledge out there about climate change and how to fight back. But my concern, my worry is how we can use that knowledge to assist local community in in the global South country context like Vietnam, so that we that has been in my opinion, if we can consider this as something that we can focus on in our strategy for 2026, I think that will be more practically useful for communities. Thanks very much. That's the point that I would like to share, to contribute to you for your consideration today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tom. And I believe this share just collaborative impact that will get to citizens, to decision makers at local level, make sure that the capabilities are shared to face those critical challenges, and also being able just as the previous slides mentioned, to pivot in times of crisis, of political change, is something that this community, now that we know each other, we are better integrated, we all will stand together for challenges that are faced in one country as a global effort, right? So I think it's really nice to see your call to action. I'm very happy because my vacation next month will be in Vietnam, so I'll be able to be close to you and see the beautiful country that you have as well.
I
So I think in virtue of time, we will probably close down this part of the celebration. I hope everyone had their drink and toasted to the beautiful achievements. This mural is our collective building as well, and we have the confetti to celebrate. But more than anything, we would really like to hear from everyone. But just seeing your sticky notes with enthusiasm, with celebration, is a great sign for this large community that we have, so diverse and spread throughout the world. So I'll quickly share my slides again, because now we have some final exciting news about 2026, and then we'll go to the final messages of the day and the year, which is amazing. We're very excited about that. 1 second. Yes. So I'm inviting John back for the what is coming in 2026.
Great. Thanks very much, Laura, and thanks for all those inspiring comments that went up on the mural board. So I mentioned we took a lot of really important steps in the second half of 2025, but things are going to become very concrete, we hope very fast, with ESIC in 2026. So I'm just going to walk you through some things to be paying attention to. So the first thing is there will be an open call for 5 new sectoral hubs posted in February. And you'll see the proposed focus of those 5 hubs, 1 on economic growth, a 2nd on food systems, a 3rd on humanitarian assistance, a 4th on peace and effective institutions, and a 5th on social protection. And given that the funding for these 5 new hubs will come from the Wellcome Trust, it won't be a surprise that there will be an expectation that in addition to using sector-specific frameworks and looking at sector-specific outcomes, there will also be a health determinants and health outcomes lens brought to bear with these 5 sectoral hubs. If you add this to the Destiny project focused on climate solutions, some of the nascent spokes in the health hub and spoke model, and then the 4 sectoral hubs coming online through Metius, this will then bring us to 11 sectoral hubs by the time that this competition has concluded. So keep your eye on the Wellcome Trust website for that posting of that open call for 5 new hubs. When it comes to the regional hubs, the plan for 2026 is to begin with support for existing regional networks of evidence intermediaries in Africa, then separately in Latin America and the Caribbean. That will be supported through the Wellcome Trust. And UKRI is also exploring funding for a sub-regional network for Europe. The reason why we call it sub-regional is we're using the UN classification of regions, and the region that Europe is included in is usually covering both Europe and Central Asia. For now, with their limited funds, UKRI is focusing on a sub-regional network for Europe, but the hope is this will grow over time to full coverage of that UN region. The third area with the open data system, you'll see, and maybe if I remember now to hit enter in the chat box, you'll see a link to a call that I believe just went live yesterday from the What Works Hub for Global Education. This is on behalf of the Jacobs Foundation and partners. This is an open call for evidence intermediaries, particularly those based in low middle income countries, to test and shape an early stage evidence repository. This is that minimum viable product that I referred to before, while producing high impact policy or practice relevant synthesis and translation to support education decision making. So if you are interested in evidence based in a low and middle income country, this is a new opportunity for funding that just went live yesterday. Another piece of work that's happening with the open data system is the Funder Interest Group executive extended an invitation to 7 individuals, each of whom represent a different category of data owner, to come together to draft a proposal for how the open data system will work. For those of you who've been participating in the touch points focused on the open data system, you'll know that there's a document about the 9 types of issues that we believe need to be worked through. 2 are listed here: governance and revenue sharing. This group of 7, with support from Wellcome Trust experts who bring legal perspectives, open data expertise, and others, they will work through a proposal for how this open data system could work. Hopefully a proposal that will work for all of you. By mid-March, that draft should be shareable, and then we'll be engaging all of you in a conversation about, will this work for you? Is this an arrangement that would lead you to want to contribute data, to use data, and so on? There will also then be bilateral discussions in the second half of March and throughout April with each group of data owners to talk about, is this a viable proposal from your perspective? What would be need to be changed in order to make it a workable solution? With the living inventory of AI digital evidence synthesis tools, there's going to be a procurement process for this work for a group based in the Global South to lead. This process will likely be posted in Q2, so sometime in the April to June window, but Isabel Fletcher and her Wellcome colleagues are juggling many other procurement and open call type processes, so they will see exactly when they can slot this in. And the final piece is the monitoring, evaluation, learning infrastructure. This is the piece that will be pushed off the farthest into this year 1 of foundational investments. The process for this likely to be posted in Q3 of 2026. So already an open call from the What Works Hub for Global Education, a call to be posted in February for the sectoral hubs, other procurement processes coming online. In all cases, an expectation around Global South leadership, but many opportunities for all of you to potentially be part of these responses. We go on to the next slide, which is the final one for me before I introduce Isabel and some other colleagues. The Funder Interest Group executive, of course, is already thinking forward to possible year 2 foundational investments. So they will continue to go back to the roadmap to see what is the logical next set of foundational investments to make. But it won't be a surprise that these 3 are currently on the list as contenders. That methods transformation that I talked about before, what would it look like to enable that transformation? Additional sectoral hubs. So we still have some orphans that won't be covered by the 11 proposed hubs. One is one focused on housing, transportation, and other community amenities. We also have other regions where we want to make sure there are regional hubs, Asia Pacific and the Arab states, or sometimes called Middle East and North Africa, would be obvious contenders for the next wave of regional hubs. And there is a strong commitment to move towards a global secretariat. And one of the responsibilities of that secretariat could be planning for an in-person working meeting that brings together the community of communities. And individual groups may want to bracket that meeting with optional meetings on their part. But there are many other solutions embedded in the roadmap, the Evidence Synthesis Studio, many others. So all of those will be getting another look to say, will this be a priority for year 2? Then the other pieces, the transitional arrangements, the Funder Interest Group will continue to help us fund for collective impact. They're also gearing up to engage each of 4 types of funders in the next wave of fundraising. National funders trying to meet their own domestic evidence needs, international assistance funders, philanthropic funders, and finally the research funders, each of whom see different value propositions in ESIC, so they need their own unique conversations. The steering group, which again just met for the first time yesterday, they will start to help us govern for collective impact. And we're really excited that the Communities Council will start to meet early in 2025. A number of you on the call today have received invitations to join this. And as additional peer review process identify additional leaders of ESIC infrastructure, those new leaders will also be invited to join the Communities Council. So just a reminder at the bottom, we're trying to co-build this together. We're using a collective impact approach. It's hard. We take 2 steps forward, we learn, we step back, we take some more steps forward together. But I think 2026 is going to be the year where this starts to really come alive in very tangible ways and really changes how many of us go about our work and really ups the prospects for significant impacts on decision making. So I'm now going to turn it over to Isabel Fletcher, who, as many of you know, is the lead for ESIC at the Wellcome Trust. She's then going to introduce a colleague of hers from Wellcome, and then we're going to hear from a colleague, Sarah Miller, who is the head of METIUS, the new consortium funded by UKRI. Isabel, over to you.
Thank you, John. And hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the final webinar of the year. I'm really touched by all of the messages and comments that have been coming out of the mural. I think it's really been a landmark year for us for evidence synthesis. And I've come to know many of you very well over the past year or so. And so I'll just reiterate what a pleasure it's been to work with you all. I think we should all be incredibly proud of the progress that we've been able to make together. I just wanted to share 1 or 2 very quick highlights from this year and from ESIC. I think for me, especially the ESIC planning process, that we were able to deliver it in such record time, even when it was suggested that we maybe shouldn't, but we went and did it anyway. So I think we can pat ourselves on the back for that. I also think we should celebrate during the planning process what great global representation we had across sectors, and the fact that ESIC was able to give a platform to early and mid-career researchers, which I think is really important for ensuring the sustainability of this initiative. And then finally, just being able to turn what was initially our £45 million investment from last year into a $126 million plus, I think it is now, investment, thanks to all of the hard work from the ESIC Funders Interest Group. And also the fact that we grounded all of the work that we've been doing in really sound, equitable principles. I think that has been really valuable and has come out from all of your comments on the mural. So thank you all again for your hard work and your engagement. We should do more of the same for 2026. Lots of exciting things are coming, and I'm really looking forward to being a part of that. And then I just wanted to say that many of you will know and will have seen that Tarek, the head of Data for Science and Health at Wellcome Trust, will be leaving us, unfortunately, at the end of January. He has been integral both internally within my organisation and also externally, championing evidence synthesis and ESIC from the start. But I want to reassure you that this does not change ESIC or anything that will be delivered. We definitely have a long-standing commitment to this work, and it also means you'll be seeing a lot more of me next year. And so I will now hand over to my colleague Stephen Hoffman, who is Wellcome's Chief Strategy Officer. I can't see if he has joined. So he is there. Okay, over to you, Stephen. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, thanks so much, Isabel. And I'm just going to take 1 minute. I wanted to very much convey a big thank you to all of you for the incredible work that has been happening for quite some time. This is not easy. Trying to help write sort of a different kind of future for evidence synthesis. And the work that's being done, we at Wellcome think it's been brilliant. And so I just want an opportunity to convey, and I know our CEO, Jonane Rottingen, has been very keen on getting updates around this. You've done brilliant work. We're very keen to continue to, this is an important effort for us, and we are just really appreciative of how much energy and time, commitment, compromise has had to go into making something quite special and important. So I'll leave it there, and a big thanks again to all of you who've made this possible.
Thanks very much, Isabel and Stephen. Great to have Stephen here as a member of the executive leadership team at Welcome, just emphasizing that super high-level buy-in from the executive leadership team. And thanks again to Isabel for being the leader of this within the Welcome Trust. We're going to go now to Sarah Miller, who is the head of this exciting new consortium called Metius. Sarah?
Hi, thank you very much. And I really resonate, or your words of exciting and scary resonate very much. But it's amazing, actually. I'm delighted. I'm one of many people involved in Metius, and in terms of the core leadership team, it's myself, Will Moy from Campbell, James Thomas from UCL, and Lawrence Melanza-Langer, of course, from PACE, but many other colleagues and organisations as well, some of whom have been very plugged into the ESIC process and some of whom are new. So it's great to be sort of joining forces with so many experts in the field, and having so many strategic partners as well through ESIC, and of course, the Global SDG Synthesis Coalition too. So we feel very delighted to be part of this huge movement. And we are a 5-year project, perhaps one of the first ESIC related projects, but we're not acting in isolation by any shape or form, building on the important work that's going on in Destiny and Solace AI as well. And, being partners in building that infrastructure that is very much AI being the hub of that, and how that works out over the next 5 years is going to be very exciting for all of us evidence synthesists. And not just in terms of building that AI capability, but also capability around methods, around synthesizing different types of evidence that maybe is not familiar to us, but also in that evidence use pathway. And there are 3 capability work packages that are going to be foundational to the success of Metius. And as you've already mentioned, John, of course, our sectoral work packages as well in education, crime and justice, climate, environment and society, and sustainable development. We're in a really important 9-month co-development phase, and it really means just that. There's no point in us deciding the direction we should go in. We need to be gathering and taking on board the perspectives of all of our different stakeholders, and being wide and inclusive in terms of who those voices are, and making sure that they are recognised and represented in the work that we do. I probably could say a lot more about what we are planning to do, but time is short. But I just really want to say thank you for the welcome that I have received into the ESIC community. And it's not just the considerable expertise that it brings, it's the support, and I've really felt that as well. So we're part of a bigger picture that is constantly evolving. We'll evolve with it. And here's to another exciting. I thought 2025 was exciting, but I think I need to gear myself up and brace myself for 2026. So bring it on. Thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And yes, I think approaching the rest time will be lovely, so we can get full energy for 2026. So we have very little time. I don't see any specific question on the chat box, but we want just to open to maybe 1 or maximum 2 questions if people have about what was presented, or any other doubts you might have before we say our final message for 2025. No, I don't see any hands. So I think the presentation was really clear. We have a lot to be excited about. In February, more calls are coming in. And so if you can start early January networking, connecting with your colleagues, Global South, Global North, and starting to brew these partnerships that will keep sustaining ESIC throughout 2026. This is lovely. The more coordinated we are, the more we are knowing and trusting each other, and this has been the work of 2025. The more collective impact we achieve together. So I think this is a nice message to close down, but we couldn't finish our day without, in a way, saying goodbye to our previous secretariat. So as you know, with these transitional arrangements that we have in place for the governance. Our dear colleagues who have been just maintaining all of this work. So John, Carrie, Shiv, Carla, Will, Zoe, Lawrence, Rona, who dedicated so much of their time in the Secretariat with the support, of course, of Ruth, Foxley, and Elsbeth, who just have enabled all of these webinars and meetings that we are together profiting from and sharing knowledge, which is sharing power. They all need to rest now. A new governance is coming. This is lovely. It's always good to change and have more people in these roles. So we really hope that everyone is well rested, receives much love, celebrates. For many countries, this is a holiday season. For some countries, it's work as usual. But we are marking the end of the ESIC 2025 in the loveliest way possible, celebrating the time commitment, knowledge, generosity that you all shared. And we hope 2026, aside from all the money and the projects, brings a lot more of relationship strengthening, trust, collaboration, equity, because these values are the ones that we work so hard to build together, and we are not giving up on them. So thank you for everyone who was here. This will be recorded. You'll be able to access this. And if you have any doubts, please log into ESIC website. Enter in contact with anyone here in the community that we know, so we can facilitate that 2026 starts with great excitement. I am not able to pronounce as good as Patrick, but you know what I mean. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Goodbye. Thank you. Merry Christmas to you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye,
Merry
Ruth.
Christmas.
Bye, everybody.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year
Everyone.
to
Merry
you and
Christmas.
families. Thank you.